Hi, it's Liza from Eff This meditation. Today we're going to do a meditation for self-connection or self-compassion. I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is that you already have everything that you need to be complete and whole and worthy as a person. You don't need to change. In fact, the road to happiness is not changing yourself into somebody that you can love. It is learning how to actually love yourself the way that you already are. There's so much messaging in the world of wellness. I call it the wellness industrial complex that speaks to our moral imperative to constantly be doing better and changing and growing. And while I definitely do a lot of personal development myself, and I believe personally in learning and trying to do better, that is actually not the path towards finding happiness or towards loving ourselves. The path is really about finding ways to love and accept ourselves for who we already are. Maybe creating some spaciousness or some circumstances that give us the possibility to do that, but not changing ourselves to get to that place. We cannot hate ourselves or change ourselves into a person that we can love. That doesn't work. But the good news is, like I said, that everything that you need to be a worthy, complete, and whole human being is already inside of you. The bad news is that sometimes we lose a little bit of touch with that. So that's all good, because today here we are going to do a practice that is going to help us to get back in touch with the beauty, the goodness, the loving energy that exists within ourselves. If you don't feel it right now, that's okay. I don't think that any of us feel that all the time. I have never met anyone that does. But it is always there and it's always available to us. So we're going to do a practice today that is going to help us kind of reconnect. So we are going to do this whole practice with kindness and gentleness, and potentially maybe even a little bit of humor. I want to introduce you to my favorite concept in Buddhism, and that is the concept of the second arrow. That basically is the idea that if we are shot by an arrow and we're in pain or suffering in some ways, why would we then go ahead and shoot a second arrow into ourselves? And that second arrow is really beating ourselves up for having difficult emotions, or beating ourselves up for making mistakes, or giving ourselves a hard time for any kind of the natural human experience. That happens to a lot of my students. It's certainly something that I work with myself, is kind of beating myself up for doing it wrong. And unfortunately, it's something that a lot of meditators find can actually infiltrate their practice. And so even long-term meditators, this is not like a newbie thing. What can happen is that we can find ourselves in the practice, and then when our mind starts to wander, which is supernatural, or we get distracted by sounds in the room or something like that, we're like, I'm supposed to be meditating. You should know better. And that's the second arrow, that kind of like, you should do better. And so what we're going to do today is really throughout the practice, just be aware if that second arrow is happening, and maybe bring a little bit of humor and levity, and understand that it's happening to me, it's happening to everyone else that's practicing to this video and in any other way. It's a really natural thing that happens. But what we're going to do is just notice if it's happening and let it go. So throughout our practice today, I invite you to make yourself as comfortable as possible. If you are sitting on a chair, try to sit at the front of the chair. And so if you're on a chair or meditation cushion, the most important thing for your posture is that your knees are below your hips. And that's going to help you to feel as supported and upright as possible. But whatever position you're in, and you can do this lying down if you want, do whatever feels good for you right now, today. Do that thing. So get yourself into a position where you can feel really comfortable and supported. And we're going to go ahead and before we close our eyes to start the practice, take just a moment to kind of check in and see what is going on. See what's going on in the room around us. Notice if there's any particular things that we see or hear that are feeling a little bit powerful that are drawing us right now, and just letting them be what they are. And then to start our practice today, go ahead and gently close your eyes. And we're going to take this moment to also just check in with ourselves. Like, hey, me, how am I doing? Here we are together meditating. And noticing what you're bringing to the practice today. Noticing it with kindness and with gentleness. Becoming aware if there are any difficult emotions or energies or tension or pain in the body. Maybe you're feeling wired or tired or both or none. Just take a moment to check in. It's all welcome here. We're just greeting it. Maybe even in your mind, actually greeting it with words. Perhaps it's, hi, anxiety, I see that you're here. Or, yes, pounding noise coming from outside, you are here. Whatever it is. Just saying hi. And let's start to shift our attention to our breath. Noticing where in our body we might be feeling our breath today. Paying attention to the physical sensations. Maybe our belly expanding and contracting, or our chest rising or falling. Maybe you're breathing through your nose or your mouth, or both, in one, out one. It's all good, just noticing. And if you're having difficulty breathing, just notice that too. You could even greet that, or greet the ease. And we'll spend a few moments continually bringing our awareness back to this physical sensation of the breath and letting ourselves explore it, or gently focusing our awareness on one specific part of it if that feels like what we want to do. If our mind wanders or our attention moves, just gently bringing it back to that physical sensation of the breath. And let's move our awareness to our heart space, to our chest, to the rising and falling that's happening there, but also maybe bringing your hand or both hands to your chest and breathing into that space, that heart space. And tuning in a little to the really strong amount of electricity and the electromagnetic current that runs through our hearts. These are things that an electrocardiogram measures. Your heart is very electric. And maybe if you're someone that has had some difficulties with your physical heart, just noticing how it feels to pay attention. Or if you're someone that hasn't had any difficulties, just bringing awareness to a space that you maybe don't think about very often. Really life-giving force that comes from your heart. And noticing too the entirety of the energetic field around this heart, this beautiful heart of yours. The heart chakra, the energetic meridians running through it. All of it together, the scientific and the esoteric, the energetic and the emotional, it's all living in this space. And we're going to just hold our awareness there, notice what it feels like. Letting any distractions happen and just compassionately and kindly bringing our awareness back to the heart. Gently dropping your hands if you are holding them to your chest and letting the awareness spread out through your body, spreading out through the rest of your torso and down through your hip space, through your neck and shoulders, to your upper legs and your upper arms and your lower legs and your lower arms, to your hands, to your feet, through your head, through the top of your head, through your crown, letting this awareness, this energy encompass your whole body. And if while you're doing this, you notice any areas of pain or tension in your body, just letting that happen, letting them be there and greeting that with kindness and maybe directing a little bit extra energy, this heart energy into that space or those spaces. Or just radiating. And while we're sitting here in this energetic awareness, still with our eyes closed and still with a connection to this heart space, to this energy that's coming from within us, we're going to do something radical. And we're going to just let our mind do anything it wants. We're going to drop the focused awareness and just let our mind wander. and gently refocusing, bringing your mind back to the practice, bringing it back to the heart space, back to the breath, to your chest rising and falling. Bringing that focus to the breath in the chest. And then allowing, still in the practice, still with our eyes closed, allowing the sounds around you to start to enter your awareness without fighting them. Notice what you can hear. In just a moment, I'm going to ring the bell that's going to signify the end of our practice today. But before I do that, take just one more moment to check in and see how you're doing now. If anything has changed or shifted, or if not, there's no goal. We're just becoming aware. We're just noticing. How are you now? Maybe greeting those things that you notice with kindness and gentleness also. And after I ring the bell, I invite you to wiggle your fingers and your toes a little bit, and then open your eyes and notice what's in the room around you that you can see as we come out of our practice and back into our day. Maybe taking a few more deep cleansing breaths if it feels good. So, any feelings that you are able to connect with through the course of this practice, those feelings can stay with you. They can go throughout your day. You can bring this attitude of kindness and gentle awareness from your practice and out into the practice of everyday life. I want to remind you that you can give yourself as much kindness and gentleness and understanding as you give to other people. Sometimes it can be difficult to figure out, how do I love myself? Especially for those of us who have spent a lifetime living with the voices in our head that tell us that we're not good enough and that we need to change and do things to become better and become different. It can be a little bit difficult to switch, even if we intellectually know, like, oh, I want to love myself. Knowing how to do that after a lifetime of doing otherwise can be really difficult. So I invite you to think about the idea that possibly one way to do that is to love yourself the way that you love someone you love. So anything that you would say to someone that you love when they're going through difficulties, when they're struggling, those are the kinds of things that you can say to yourself. And I know I know that you already know how to love with kindness and gentleness because you're doing that for other people already. So I invite you to bring some of that into your own relationship with yourself and to really take the opportunity when you feel like you need it to reconnect with this beauty, this basic goodness, this awesomeness that lives inside of you. It can happen through a formal practice like this. Please come back and do this practice anytime. But it can also happen throughout your day by just taking a mindful moment to make a decision when you're having difficulty to just let it be what it is, and perhaps even greeting it with a little bit of kindness and gentleness. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day and to see you back here again soon. Bye, friend.